Hello, my name is Chris, and I want to thank you for joining us for this TenantCloud podcast. If you have not listened to the past few episodes as a part of this series, we are in a series on how to find tenants quickly. So if you have a vacant rental, the goal and the name of the game is to get another tenant into your rental as quickly as possible. Even if you have a current tenant in, when that tenant moves out, you want to make sure that you have as little downtime for that rental property as possible, because the name of the game for your rentals is cash flow, and that is only possible if you have a paying tenant in your rental property every day of the year. And so this entire series is geared towards helping you find a tenant quickly. And so if you haven't listened to the last episode, definitely go in and check that out, because likely if you were listening to today's podcast, the previous podcast ties into this one. So make sure that you listen to the previous podcast as a part of this series, and hopefully the information you get as a result of these podcasts will help you to become a better landlord who is more efficient and gets tenants into your rentals quicker. In today's podcast, it's going to be a little bit shorter than the other episodes, at least I think. I try to keep them under 10 or 15 minutes. That doesn't always work. Sometimes these podcasts go a little bit longer, but again, hopefully the information you're getting helps you become a better property manager or landlord. In today's podcast, we're going to talk about being flexible. What do I mean by being flexible? Well, anytime that I've ever searched for a rental property in the past, and I haven't rented a property for quite some years now, but when I was renting properties, one of the things that was really frustrating was the fact that rental properties that we always liked had a very pretty rigid schedule of being only open for tours from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., usually Monday through Friday, sometimes Saturdays, rarely Sundays. And it was incredibly frustrating as a renter, because inevitably we had to take time off of work to go and check out those rental properties. And so a lot of people these days, especially at a lot of companies where they're extremely stressed out with not having enough employees and people are working overtime and they don't have the ability to take off a lot of time, especially during a busy work week, it's really difficult for tenants to find time to come and tour your rental between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. It's kind of the same thing, honestly, when it comes to places like barbershops and other places that they're only open for a very rigid schedule during business hours, and people have to take time off of work just to go do those basic things. And so the idea of being flexible as a property manager or landlord is a few things. One is really genuinely consider having touring hours outside of the rigid 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. schedule, especially if you're in a competitive rental market or you're struggling to find tenants quickly, or at least qualified tenants. It really does help if you can be flexible in your touring schedule time, maybe opening up an hour earlier, like 8 a.m., or maybe even 7 a.m. before people go to work, or maybe 6 or 7 p.m. is your last touring time instead of 5 p.m. I know that a lot of companies have, not a lot, but I've seen quite a few companies here and there that are moving to more of a split schedule throughout the day, where they're open from like 7 a.m. to 11 a.m., or maybe they're only open from like 10 a.m. through 1 p.m. during the lunch hour, and then they close for a few hours, and then they open up again between like 5 and 8 p.m. or whatever. So that's cool, but just in general, the concept is make yourself more available, be more flexible. There's a couple other ways you can do that outside of expanding your business hours, which is be open, or at least be flexible, allow people to schedule appointments for Saturdays or maybe even Sundays. And what I mean by that is allow people to not just walk in maybe your office, or maybe you don't have your rental property open per se on Saturdays, but at least give people the option to schedule a tour. And even if you require, and this may or may not be possible in your state or region, but in some areas, people do things like charging a small fee for scheduling a tour, a refundable fee. It's basically a refundable deposit. So you pay a fee of $10 or $50 or whatever as a refundable fee or deposit, so that if they don't show up for the rental property and they've wasted your time and money and gas and so on and so forth, they don't get their money back because they didn't show up and they wasted your time. Other ways to do that are to do pre-qualifications. So, hey, yeah, that's great if you want to tour the rental property on a Saturday. but you need to get pre-qualified first. So either send me your pre-qualifications, or if that's how you do it, or you need to fill out this application so I can make sure you're pre-qualified for coming to the rental property. And so there's different ways you can do that. And again, just make sure that you're within the guidelines of your region to make sure it's legal, of course. But you do want to typically take some precautions to make sure that if you are scheduling appointments for people that on days that you wouldn't otherwise, or times that you wouldn't otherwise normally schedule appointments, you want to make sure that you're not wasting your time. And you can even do that during the week too. You could say somebody calls you and is like, hey, I don't get off work till 4:30 and you're 45 minutes away, so I'm not going to get there till 5:15 and I can't take time off this week, but I really like to see the rental. Well, go ahead and schedule an appointment for 6 o'clock or 5:45 or whatever it is, whatever time they can get there. And again, you can do the pre-qualification, you can do the refundable deposit, the fee, whatever it might be. But the bottom line is be more flexible in your ability to tour rental properties with people. The other way is to be flexible is to offer a self-guided tour option. And so a lot of rental properties these days, especially after 2020, when a lot of people weren't trying to do physical contact type stuff, you can set it up to where your rental property is available to people to tour on their own. And there's a lot of different ways and technology that you can use to do that these days. That kind of exploded in 2020 and ever since. And so if you're looking for some options to do that, it's definitely available. I would recommend researching some of those methods and tools that you can use to make your rental property available to people to tour on their own schedule, or even still within a specific time frame. You can limit, even with the new technology and the new software and stuff, you can even limit it to where maybe it's an access code or something that they get, but the access code only works until like 8 p.m. and it doesn't work after that. Or maybe it only works till 6 o'clock, an hour after your offices close, or whatever it might be. Or maybe it's a video software type deal that you've got set up where they have to show up and you don't give them the code until they're standing there in front of the door and you're talking with them through the video chat, and you give them the code right then and there to walk through the rental property, or whatever it might be. And you can also use that same technology even if you are setting up in-person appointments, to where, let's say you're just down the road from the rental property, where you don't actually show up until they either send you a photo showing that they're there, or send you a location ping from their GPS saying, hey, yeah, I'm here, or I'm 5 minutes away. Or maybe it's not even until they walk up to the door and push the button and it turns on like a Ring camera or something, and they say, yeah, I'm here, ready to tour, and you drive down the road 5 minutes to go meet them. So there's different ways that you can do it. But again, the goal is to just be more flexible and to make it easier for people to tour your rental, because obviously people want to tour before they apply and go through the hassle of getting approved for your rental property. So the easier you make it, the lower the barrier of entry is to your rental property, the better. And so be flexible. Hopefully you've learned something from this podcast, and wherever you were listening, go ahead and give us a follow. And if you are on the Apple Podcast platform, please leave us a review, follow us, like us, and we'll look forward to talking with you next time.